Welcome to Cloud Dialogues. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Welcome to Cloud Dialogues, everyone. We are back. We've had a little bit of a hiatus, haven't we, Matt? We've had a little bit of a break.
We have. But that's okay. Less
Yeah,
episodes,
I'm all about
high
quality over quantity. And we've got two lovely guests with us today, which I'm super excited about, especially given the amount of time and pain that it took to try and schedule this to suit everyone's diary.
We've been talking about this since
Yeah.
July.
Yeah, to be fair.
Really my fault.
Yeah, but I think it was also some of my fault. So, see, today we're talking about data center power supply and renewables and the rise of AI and the impact on the aforementioned. So we are super excited today to have Brad Young with us. I'm not going to introduce you, Brad. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and then we'll go to Al.
Hi, my name is Brad Young. I'm a vice president at Capgemini. I lead our consulting business in the UK, focusing on manufacturing, automotive, and chemicals. Background is 27 years in manufacturing and automotive, both in industry and in consulting. Really excited to talk today about this topic.
Awesome. Al?
Alistair Adams, Al. I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. So that's why I talk very oddly compared to most people. I'm from Solution Energy. We are a geothermal technology developer and provider. We have a breakthrough technology that has application in clean energy and also dissipating excess heat to the subsurface as well through the use of a really innovative heat exchanger. We're now USA domiciled. We are headquartered in America. But as I said, I'm based in Melbourne, and with a focus on Australia and APAC, where what we're going to talk about today is a big problem. So yeah, that's my background is in consulting. Also, I was a former partner of Deloitte, and prior to that in engineering and consultancy firms, and way back when I was a very boring corporate lawyer. So I've come a long way. I've learned a lot, and working in this very exciting space. And I think it's changed a lot in the last 2 years. And I think the next 2 and the next 5 and the next 10 are going to be pretty frightening, exciting, and yeah, it's going to be a ride, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a pretty exciting topic, really, Georgia, because we've been talking about AI for a while. And obviously, with all the AI comes a lot of power usage. We've seen all the news about Anthropic and OpenAI gobbling up all the capacity of all the cloud providers effectively. They just sign deals with everyone, and they just sign deals because they have to, because they need all the capacity. So, and Nvidia is just signing deals with everyone as well. So it's like this circular deal making scheme.
Yeah, right.
Wow. Let's go
News,
to the
Georgia.
news. What did we have up first? I'd never heard of this company.
Nebius? Oh,
Nebius?
I've never heard of them
Group.
either. Nebius Group signs a $3 billion deal with Meta
Can I have some of that?
platforms.
You got lots.
Just redirect a little bit of it my way.
A piece.
I think we should get into AI
As we know,
infrastructure, Matt. Though I'm not really sure it's our area.
I think there's a bit of,
I don't know that we have that. I don't know that we have that financial backing, but
we don't have capital.
There's lots of this going. There's a number of these that have happened recently, right? Because there was the Oracle one. Oracle's obviously deploying. I think they're doing a large sum of infrastructure for OpenAI, which I thought was quite interesting. And it kind of came out of nowhere. And then there was what was the other one? It was another major one. And they've actually, their logo is on one of the Formula One teams. Their logo is on one of the Formula One teams, but I can't remember which one. Obviously, but I noticed that company reported like quite a significant loss last quarter. Well, I guess, yeah. They reported a 355% jump in quarter 3 revenue, but they logged a quarterly loss of US 100 million because of CapEx. So, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. And Meta obviously have their own data centers, as we found out during the AWS outage. Like, a
Well,
month ago.
they're all on they're on premise.
one
They're
of
on
the only
premise, right?
platforms
And
that were
they
up.
always have been. I think they always have been. And yeah, I mean, to a degree, you can understand why. Like, if you've got that power and scale, why would you bother? But
Yeah, they're beyond. They're probably too expensive to use cloud data centers. Obviously, they'll probably just keep signing more deals too because they keep.
well, I mean, they want diversity as
expanding.
well, right? They want to have a degree of redundancy, given the
Yeah.
complexity of the like technical information. If something goes wrong, then they've got some redundancy. Whereas if they're just doing it all themselves and something goes wrong, then you don't have anyone else to blame, right? If
Wonder if they have a
if you mess it up, you don't have anyone
I
else to
know.
blame. You can't point the finger at anybody else.
I wonder if they have a sustainability strategy. Oh, they do have a sustainability.
Yeah, I wonder how
report.
like transparent it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I should have done some research on that. I can save that for next time. Next item. Google launches a new private AI compute platform. Interesting. Do they not have that? So
I think it's got a higher degree
Let
of
me bring
security
this
than anything
article
that they've already got available.
private AI compute. So obviously it's designed for agents, I guess. So the problem with agents is that they can get a bit out of control. So this is probably to help contain that. And
On-device AI alone is right.
Provide-
Well,
device-like privacy. Yeah, okay. So it's about containing the data to the user who's using the system. So it's.
I feel like this sounds like,
I'm not sure how that's different to
you know
other
how,
things.
like, example, Amazon creates products for themselves and then allows customers to use them. I feel like this sounds similar. Is that they needed a product for themselves, so they went and created it, and now they've made it available to customers.
Monetize it as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're just dog fooding their
Yeah.
own product, and then they can take it to market because they have such scale.
Yeah. One of the examples is
Yeah.
that the Pixel phone will have better, so their apps and the contextual suggestions uses part of this back-end capacity. So they're
Has anyone got a
probably
Pixel phone? The Google Pixel phone?
putting
They're
their
pretty
own
bloody
stuff.
good.
No.
I've tried one out. I don't have one. I've got an iPhone. I should disclose that. But I wouldn't shy away from it. They've got this really amazing feature that you take 5 photos and say you like how you're standing in one, but you like your face in another. You just smush them together, right? It's the perfect thing. You just go, well, photo 1, photo 3, photo 5, smush them together, away you go. Pretty cool.
I need that.
So that probably uses this private capacity to keep the photos safe, you'd think.
I guess they have enough of an ecosystem to have a need to have a product that, because it is the comparable is Apple's private cloud compute. So I'm assuming that there's extra like technical
I guess they've
guardrails
all
about
got it.
the security. I don't know what they are.
Yeah. I don't think they disclose it. They just market it. Alphabet invests 6.4 billion in German cloud infrastructure. The hell's that? That seems a lot of money as well.
It's probably over a long period of time though, no? 9,000 indirect jobs.
Yeah.
6.4 billion. It's not that much. Well, they just announced 15 in India.
It's not that much.
Then that's not enough.
Yeah, but
Then that's not
India
like
is
Germany.
huge. India is
okay, yeah.
huge. The amount of people in India is like,
Yeah.
how many people are in India compared to the amount of people in Germany?
All right.
And so I guess, Europe, it makes sense, right? Because they have to segregate their
Yeah.
data due to EU for the data protection laws, right? In Europe. So
they've
it
got
kind of
pretty
makes
tough
sense.
laws in Germany specifically, right? So could be related.
Clearly
Oh,
it's
really?
Oh, in Germany itself, yeah.
I did not know that. And is that like a sovereignty thing, Brad, or is it more around security?
I think it's both. Well, probably less about sovereignty, more about security. I think Germany traditionally has been a real focal point for data privacy, and I think culturally, Germany has always been known as being somewhere where the data privacy is a bit more of a tougher issue for businesses. So could be related to that.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think that would make sense.
On top of the European GDPR and European laws.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, my like very capitalist brain says that Europe has basically regulated themselves out of doing anything, stunning with AI at this point in time, would be my opinion. You probably have a different opinion, Brad.
Yeah. Well, it feels that way, doesn't it? It feels like Europe is being very conservative with some of the laws.
Totally.
They launched GDPR in 2018, and they've got the European AI Act, which came in last year, I think, right?
It's too soon.
So on the one hand, I think you could say that they're sort of leading in terms of legislation, maybe setting the bar for the rest of the world.
But where does that get you? Where does that get you?
The cost of innovation, really, compared to North America and China, particularly.
Absolutely.
And products are releasing specific features and versions for Europe. Or, well, actually removing features, potentially. USB-C was the good thing that came out of that, because they kind of forced Apple's hand on that, having USB-C for all iPhones is a win, I think, because every other device pretty much is USB-C.
It's all like, why do we care? Honestly, there's like a million other issues that we could be dealing with that is not what cable, my £10 cable. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, honestly, just let people buy, let people choose what products they want, and the market will adjust itself. Like, that's my view. I think all of it's ridiculous over-regulation. But anyway.
Yeah, it's tough, right? I remember back in 2018, my previous role at an automotive OEM, we were basically launching software updates for vehicles for the first time. So we were basically launching the technology to update cars remotely for the first time. And there's all sorts of data privacy issues you've got to navigate. And because obviously the business case for that program is built on reducing all the manual work to update software in vehicles and the associated costs with that. So the business case was really strong. But the problem is that you had to navigate all of the different privacy laws in all different countries, and also data costs as well. But you can't go backwards because the technology is moving in one direction and it's driving kind of cost reduction and efficiency. So there was a lot of, even at that point, and that was just about data protection, nothing to do with AI at that point. But I can imagine now the challenges with more and more kind of AI applications coming into vehicles and other products as well, kind of navigating that legislation, all around the world is pretty tough. And and as a business, you have to take some risks as well.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. CNCF. What's this one, Georgia? Oh, CNCF published a new report on AI tools, funnily enough, in cloud-native ecosystems. So they're renowned for I don't know if you've seen it, they've got this big poster, all the tools in the cloud-native ecosystem. That's kind of where I am. And it's like ridiculously complicated because there's so many vendors there. So they've obviously added AI, which has probably made it even more complex because there's also so many vendors in the AI tools space. So I guess that was part of KubeCon, which I think is on now.
Is part of what? What is KubeCon?
KubeCon. I think that was a conference. KubeCon is like a big Kubernetes conference.
Oh, of course.
CNC, run by the
Is
CNCF.
it? Okay.
That's on this week. Yep. I think that's on this week. That's probably why
I
you got
hate
the news
Kubernetes,
report.
man.
So do I. I hope we're going to get hate mail now. I can feel it.
I have a sticker on my laptop that says K8's victim. Very nerdy.
It's a good sticker. I need that sticker. All right, that's enough on that, I think. The last one is Microsoft. It says publishes a study within IDC on frontier firms using AI.
Yeah, I was having a look at this.
What's that about?
It's basically got like it tells you like a really, and I quite like some of the content in here. That's why I put it in the brief document. It's kind of like it does a good job of showing you, like it tells a good story, but it's basically like, what is the journey from going from like, you know, how do I put, what do we call organizations that are like old school? Like,
Okay.
legacy.
Legacy.
Yeah. 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 Going.
Dinosaurs.
I deal with that all the time.
It's going from like dinosaur to like frontiers, right? I thought it was quite interesting. It's the first thing is like, and I think a lot of organizations are considering this right now. Like, obviously, we've got Copilot and all the likes, but I think still a lot of like, there's still a lot of adoption to happen in that space, especially in like more highly regulated industries. And it's not even because the tools are not there and they're not fit for purpose. It's just because of cultural implications, right? So that's about like AI for productivity. That's kind of like phase one. And then the second one is about like having digital colleagues. I don't know about you, Matt. I haven't seen anyone doing this yet other than us. I haven't seen anyone doing this other than us.
At least they won't talk back at you, and they'll just do what you say. I guess.
It's like you beating up Anthropic. No, that's not what I want.
I know.
That's
Claude,
not
go
what I want.
faster.
Rewrite it. Yeah. No, I thought that's quite an interesting view of, but again, like obviously that was because there's a couple of stakeholders here, right? There's the IDC, but then I think for Microsoft, like I think that's obviously like, I mean, this is a sales piece, right? But I thought it was quite interesting nonetheless. And the third one was like the third phase, the most like advanced. Again, I haven't seen anyone doing this other than us. Is that you've got like a series of AI employees and the humans set the direction and like maintain the overall system, but the AI employees do all the work. I still think that's a bit aspirational, especially in organizations that have like plethoras of legacy code, etc.
Yeah. And I think we don't know even what that phase 3 will end up looking like. I'm not, it's kind of a guess at the moment because this year feels like 3 years in AI and tech. Which is AI, tech always feels
fast.
You know, like things change a lot, but I think this year has been.
But this is the
like
thing, though. I feel like AI
normal.
is putting everything. AI is putting the speed of change on steroids. Like organizations that, whenever I talk to organizations that are like, or like executives that are like, I haven't found any valid use cases for AI. I'm like, that's because you're an idiot. Quite frankly, if you can't find anything, your organization is screwed and you shouldn't be in your role. Like, frank, honest view. If that's the case, you're screwed.
Okay, so do you think we're in an AI bubble?
Doing a.
Or do you think?
I mean, I think we are. But again, right?
A little bit.
If I consider my time at Amazon, I think we saw 95% of failed use cases for AI, right? I think it's better now. I think we're seeing a lot less failed use cases. It's not the answer to everything, right? But if you're not experimenting and learning, you're already so far behind. I am concerned for you. Like, but it also shows the culture of your organization, right? If as a leader, you're standing up and saying, this is a waste of time, I think you got a cultural problem.
I saw an interesting quote the other day, which I found humorous as well as interesting. But it's saying, you know, you guys are saying how much has happened in AI and where we're at, and you know where it's going to keep growing. But saying that where it's at, this person said, think of it at the moment at about the Nokia 3210 level.
Yeah,
you know,
yes.
That's where AI is at around that level. Whew, geez, we've come a long way since the 3210. Everyone had one of them, like, you know. But you know,
how long has it been now? It's been 25 years, something like that.
I reckon the 3210 came out in either the late 90s or early 2000s. So it was a pretty cool phone, but you know,
was that the phone that had like it kind of slid open? Or was that a different Nokia? I remember.
No. This is like the brick.
I had one of them. I had one of them.
Tons of money.
It's like the Sidekick. Remember that phone that used to like flip out, and everyone was like, "Wow!"
Yeah. 1999, Al. 1999.
Yeah.
But it was re-released
because a lot of the
in
kids get
2024.
dumb phones, so you don't want them to have all that stuff. So the 3210 came back for that, which is great. But yeah, it's scary to think of. it's scary to think that if that's where AI and the development of AI is at, that we're only at the 3210 level, then whew.
And also, I guess think you're at that idea of,
And just
a future where it's going to be like agents, human operating, human operating agents, like a kind of whole fleet of agents. I wonder what it's going to be like for that human. What kind of job is that going to be? And
But I think we're already there to some
Lonely.
degree, Brad. You're already there. Like what you said before, we're already there. That's literally like if you're not there, then
You're nowhere.
you're probably, if you're not there already, if you're not somewhat there, then you're probably going to be extinct pretty soon.
yeah,
It's going to like think about
Yeah.
the consulting firms
Totally.
and my former employer included, but it's going to have a lot of implications in consulting and the number of people they need.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Like I haven't been here for 2 years now, and I can't imagine what it would be like there now, knowing what I know about AI and how I use it personally. So, it's fascinating. All that.
I remember speaking to a client. We had a
Yeah.
client workshop about this a few months ago, and one of the senior directors in our client was talking about this idea of today, I can use my personal experience, whatever 30 years of experience to validate whether, if I see something, I can validate whether it's wrong or right, if it's generated from AI or anyone else or anything else. I can basically use up my personal experience to kind of sense check, is that right or wrong? Problem is, though, in another 20 years, the equivalent of me or whoever is doing my job
They won't know.
have that experience.
Yeah.
So how do you
Yes.
actually know in that future whether it's, right or wrong
Yeah.
anymore? How are you going to develop?
But I think we're already seeing that, Brad. I think that's already like, I feel sorry for young people because like at the point that AI became so prevalent in my career, I already had 15 years of experience, right? If you're just coming into this and it's like developers are a really good example of this, right? If you're a developer and you currently have, not a lot of experience, you're coming into a world where AI is doing a lot of the task, which is fine if you're Matt and he's got however many years experience building lots of different things. But if you don't have that context and that understanding,
Right.
you're going to struggle. And that aligns with the research, right? That says, well,
Yeah.
if you're a junior developer, actually AI is not going to help you. It's going to probably make things worse for you because you're not going to understand what it's doing, right?
Right.
I think it's the same with roles that are non-technical, is that it's going to be very hard to like build experience. I really feel for young people because I think the gap, unfortunately, if you actually have that depth of experience versus people that don't and are just depending on the tools, the gap is going to be enormous.
Yeah, and I think I can see how it would,
Totally agree.
change training, right? How when you join a company, for example, as a graduate, what does that really mean? What kind of training would you have to go through to actually build up your skills?
Yeah. Yeah, I think also like I mentor lots of young people and they often ask me like, how can I do better? What can I improve on? And honestly, one of the things that I tell a lot of them is physically go to an office and sit next to someone that has the 20 years of experience and watch them do their job, right? Like what you will get out of that is so profound compared to like everyone just sits at home, no one comes to the office. Like that peripheral learning is all gone, and that's all going to exacerbate the gap, right? Between people that have the experience, a depth of experience versus people that are just like sitting at home.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah. I remember years ago
Indeed,
in a
indeed.
manufacturing job, spent some time in a factory and kind of walking into this room, and there was just this huge room basically filled with machinery just clunking away, and it was so loud. There was one operator in the corner of the room, just one guy standing there at a terminal, and he had the ear defenders on because the room was so loud. And that was just, all day someone had to be in that room as the operator, right?
Yeah.
And so you would basically probably have to spend the whole day with ear defenders on, protecting yourself from the sound in this room. And it's pretty isolating, right, as a role to be able to do that. And I guess I'm thinking about that future where there's a human, operating all these kind of, a little bit of like a metaphor for that, right? Where you're just kind of isolated by technology to some extent. And it really, I would say, changes that your job role.
Yep.
Totally. And I think it changes life as well, right? Like,
Mm.
I think there are a lot of people are like sitting at home lonely, and a lot of people need to just get up and like go and talk to people. Like, honestly, that's not like a candid view.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes,
And
touch grass.
grass.
Although maybe not in London. I really wouldn't recommend like walking around barefoot on any
Oh,
grass.
yeah.
Really, please don't do that. That sounds like a risk.
No, you got
Yeah, but
lots
I
of
wouldn't walk
beautiful
around
parks in
barefoot
London,
in
don't
them.
you?
That's a risk. That's a risk. Maybe
No,
get
that's
a
true.
grass patch at home, like the grass patch that you have for the dog owl.
Yeah, bro, that's right. Get it delivered every 2 weeks and just dump up in grounds. That's right. Still on news.
Last
Wowza.
news article. Yeah, I know, it's the last one. Verizon Communications and AWS expand fiber network agreement to support AI workloads. Well, that makes sense. But I thought AWS had their own agreement, had their own network, but maybe they do lease.
I mean, it
some
might
stuff
be
as well.
owned by them,
Well,
but
obviously
it's
they
not
do, if
managed
they've
by
got an
them.
agreement.
Largely, I would think that they wouldn't have the skills. Like they because
Those the operations or something.
yeah. I mean, it's the same with the DCs, right? Like the DCs, they might be owned by them, but they're not run or operated by them, or like largely not run or operated by them. Maybe there might be, I mean, I don't know, like where they have defense and stuff, but even then, like they probably just have secure contractors to do that. I was actually thinking what you were just talking about before, Brad, about
yeah.
the people with the manufacture the machinery. I was thinking about fiber optics, because people that work on fiber optics are often like working on their own, and it's a high risk job, and they're like, out in the van in the field splicing fiber, and it's like,
Yeah.
so it's different, but made me think of
Slicing
that.
five.
See, I've lived in the world of fiber
Yeah.
optics.
Oddly, all these people are the ones whose jobs actually can't be done by AI. So
Yeah, that's true.
they're the ones that will still have jobs. It's like they will also, everyone's lonely, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a sad, unfortunately. I do feel like we're already there to some degree.
Well, it's just, I agree. You say that, but then look what's happening with robotics, right? And where robotics are going, and some of those physical jobs that we probably think of today are like safe physical jobs that are not going to be taken by technology. You can gradually start to see how robotics could take some of those jobs as well, which is also pretty scary. Think about.
I feel like, because obviously there's more, and I've seen recently in my own connections, new biped robots. What is the point of them, though? Biped robots.
New what?
Biped.
What are
They
they?
have their 2 legs.
What's
You don't know what biped
What-
means?
what-
That's a word, right? That's a-
Humanoid
No.
like robots. Like,
Yeah, yes. They have 2 legs. Well, I think what's the point in
well,
them
there you
other
go.
than
No.
like, oh no, have you seen Companion? Have any of you seen
Yeah.
Companion? You've seen yeah.
Yes.
No,
We've spoken
George
about
is
this
slightly
before.
obsessed with this. Just because I really think that's where we're headed. I really think that's where we're headed, unfortunately. People don't even want to be in relationships with humans anymore. They just want someone that will do what they say.
That's a bit sad.
yeah,
That's
I guess
Yeah, that's true.
the cake for robotics, right? I guess in industrial applications is about productivity and cost reduction, and then
what sort of use cases though, Brad?
well, so
Hmm.
unfortunately, when you think about the products you buy today, whether it's a car or a laptop or whatever, a lot of the cost of that is the human cost, right, of manufacturing. It's people in factories and supply chains and so on. And another example is think about logistics. So the cost of moving things around, in trucks, for example, and basically everything moves around in trucks. About half of that cost, at least, probably has got to be the cost of the driver. So the first, I guess, application is the thing that always drives every major decision. It's about productivity and cost. The benefits of improving productivity, for example, in factory environments, reducing cost. But then I guess you also have other potential benefits, right? Like safety issues, health and safety type situations where it may over time just be lower risks to to put technology in there than to put a human, into a certain environment. Yeah, and so I think those are probably the key drivers. Why that has to be come back to your point, why it has to be a robot on 2 legs, I'm not quite sure. I guess it's about the adaptability, and perhaps also about it's probably, I'm not a robot expert, but I guess it's probably something to do with
Bobby on.
Yes. I guess it's probably something to do with the adaptability of something to be able to kind of navigate different situations, different environments.
This is true. More nimble, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We should get
But
a
I mean,
robot
that's
expert
Bobby.
on, Georgia.
That's
Let's have a
Bobby.
think about
Yeah,
it.
Bobby.
Well,
Oh,
I
is it?
mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's no one really better.
It's a bit like when I'm like a big Star Wars
There
fan.
is,
So when you think about R2D2 and R2D2, it's when you think the practicalities of how R2D2 really could survive in the real world, just with 2 little wheels, just kind of like going around. It's not hugely realistic, right? So yeah, I can see how having robots that walk around on 2 legs, 4 legs, going to be much more adaptive for different environments.
Do you remember how Amazon tried to do deliveries with the dog? Do you remember that? What was it called again? It was called something. They got, because it kept getting like
I
kicked,
can't
or
remember.
like
Didn't
people
work.
would just come and like kick it in the butt, and it would just be like, it's like, yeah, that's probably maybe the psychology is that people will be less likely to do that if it looks more like them. I don't know, like if it's the same height as you, or if it's taller than you might be less likely to go and push it over. I don't know.
Society is too fit.
Oh dear. When you were talking about the robots with 2 legs, did you see that demo of the Helix demo of filling the dishwasher?
Okay.
This robot actually looks humanoid on 2 legs, filling the dishwasher. It didn't do a very good job, and it fell over.
It's
But,
so complicated.
But the point
though. This is the
is,
thing.
it's
This is
there,
the thing.
and you can order it.
This is the
You
thing,
can
though.
order
I
it.
feel like yes, there are great applications for it, but I feel like robotics is so hard. Like it's so hard to get it right compared to like software, right? Because compared to things that are software defined as opposed to things that are more hardware defined. Like robotics is so everything getting to a point where we even have 2-leg robots has been like a massive journey, a long journey, right? And again, like you said, Matt, it fell over when it's trying to load the dishwasher. Like, I think it's a lot. My
It's on
personal
YouTube.
view is
Go
that I
find
think
it.
it's further away than we think it is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
But
it's
it's getting
definitely
there. Like, the
advancing, and it
technology's
probably will
getting there.
advance faster with AI, right? But even still, I think it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also a political dimension, right? Which is around today, obviously, most of the things we buy are manufactured in places like China, Vietnam, parts of the world where basically labor is cheaper. But obviously that comes with sort of the political issues that we kind of see play out with Trump, tariffs, all those types of things. But in the future where you could manufacture things back on your own soil, lower cost with robots, and you can keep the costs down and keep those products affordable, but you're in control of those environments again. You don't have to think about tariffs, or political issues. You can see how that could be a big benefit for certain countries to invest in.
Oh, totally. I just think like if you consider I don't know if any of you guys have seen there's a presentation that Amazon has done historically about the warehouses and about the autonomous warehouses. I believe it's
I've
fake.
seen that. Yeah.
I don't think it's real. I don't think
What?
it's real.
Yeah. A lot of the videos I see around, like the Boston Dynamics videos where you see like these robots being tested, you can't tell actually half the time whether they're real videos or they're just also AI.
Or it's simulated,
Well,
right? It's simulated in a certain environment.
Oh, I think partially.
Yeah, no,
I
but
think it's
it
partially.
partially.
Real, 'cause they do
It's
have a
not
lot
the
of
way that they
automation.
represent it, though. It's the same as like the Amazon Fresh debacle. What they were saying was machine learning was actually a operation center in India where they watched what people picked up, and like it's the same thing because they're always going to be saying, "Oh, we're doing all this amazing stuff." It's like, well, the reality is probably not quite that. No, but
Georgia,
it
it's
is,
sales.
right? It
It's
is
sales. You know
because
about
I've been on
sales.
that side of it, right?
yeah.
And Brad, you know about sales.
I mean, all of us know about sales.
Exactly.
We're all salespeople. All 4 of us are
I know,
salespeople
we
to
all know
some
about
degree,
sales,
right?
that's
Like,
true.
I agree. I think,
Yeah.
I think it is headed that in direction, but I think it's not as advanced as some people would believe.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, data
Yeah, should we move to data
centers
centers
and power.
and
Yes.
sustainability before we run out of
No,
time?
but it's good because I feel like a lot of the time when we're doing the news, our guests are just sitting there like, and this is like actually engaged in the conversation. That's the whole point of having
I
you
know,
guys on.
engaged conversation, which is good.
If we plan ahead, we can probably do another one in
Smarter
3
people
months'
than us.
time.
That's what we get.
We should do robots with Bobby. Actually, he
Right.
probably won't come on. He doesn't like it. He's like, nah, it's lame.
Oh. Oh. But
Well,
he can recommend someone else
yes.
as well.
Potentially,
Ro-
we can
ro-
there are others.
Drones,
find out.
robots and drones. That's a good topic.
Drones, yeah.
Drones.
Yeah.
Drone delivered
Okay,
donuts.
noted, I'll
Drone
put it
nuts.
into the
Pizzas.
the list.
Where did you get that from, Brad? Drone delivered donut.
Wow.
Well, because Guzman Gomez was doing drone deliveries for a while in Canberra, but I don't think it worked, did it? It
Oh,
was a
that's the
nightmare. It
best.
didn't work.
GYG.
They kept going around the roundabouts in Canberra, I think.
There's too many. There's too many rules here on
It's ridiculous.
regulation on.
It's
If
ridiculous.
it's close to an
It's
airport,
like, it's this
you can't
big.
fly one.
Like,
and all
come
that sort
on.
of stuff.
It's not going to take down a plane.
737 engine says hello.
Um,
737 has entered the chat. Oh, dear. All right. Data centers.
Yeah, I guess so.
Wow.
data centers. Where should we start? What's happening with data centers with their design? Is there rules? I don't know the answer. Obviously,
We have two. We
an
have two.
expert here.
We have two.
Is there? We have two experts. Is there rules on data center building these days? And is obviously there must be incentives because everything we hear is new data centers. Adhere to blah 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 blah. They're always built in area, or they're trying to build in environmentally friendly areas and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, what's the status of data center building and sustainability? I don't know who the right
Well,
person is to
I can
answer.
stung out if you like and have a crack. Yeah. Look, to go to your first point, I don't know that there's necessarily rules around how they're being designed and built or where they need to be designed and built, but I think there's inferred rules, in terms, and it's changing a little bit around the constraints on that they're encountering, and that's guiding these principles, right? So you look at, talk about some of the big ones, Google, Microsoft, they've had some recent pushback in America. I think Google was in Indianapolis, Microsoft, Wisconsin, I think, but they announced data centers and had to pull the announcement because of pushback from the general public. So I think, social license is probably one of the guiding principles now around where these things are being built and how they're designed and what they're consuming. And of course, why we're here today is what they're consuming, and in vast amounts is energy and water. And so that's what caused the specific problems in Indianapolis and Wisconsin, I believe, was around energy and water. So I think to go to your first question, is there rules and regulations around that? No, but it's fast becoming a permission-based business. That's my opinion, in terms of if you don't have the permission and the social license, you're not going to go anywhere, and you're certainly not going to be building data centers. That's, Brad, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I think the public is becoming also more savvier to what's going on, right? People who want to know where their kind of products are coming from, what's behind them, what's the carbon impact. And I think the public are probably taking more interest in that. And that's putting pressure on the brands, that they buy, and the brands themselves are starting to be savvier about what they need in terms of where their compute power comes from, and therefore data centers and so on and so on. So I think that's a really interesting dynamic as well. That's probably putting pressure in the same way.
They've sort of, one thing too, that getting back to my earlier point, they're changing the way they're approaching it a little bit, and they are making announcements about this subtly. Like, say, take Google, for example. I think it was about 12 months ago, they came out with a power first strategy. And so that is a slight shift in the way they do things. I believe they used to buy land and sometimes multiple tracts of land where it was available, good price, close to a major city, and where they needed a data center, tick, tick, tick. But now, I believe the power first strategy suggests that we need to build data centers where we know we can secure the power, and so, and like I said, get back to the permission point. unless you can say to the regulator, the government, the council, whoever you need to talk to, oh, we want to build a data center here, and we're bringing our own power. And they go, okay, well, that's okay, because you're not going to be a drain on the grid, and we're not going to have to do load shedding for mums and dads so that you can keep the data center humming. So I think that Google's Power First strategy is a very good example of how, BYO power is going to be best in class, in my opinion. Jensen Huang also talks about this a little bit from Nvidia. He talks about the co-location of data centers at the site of power as well, and he believes that's the future for data centers going forward. So it's starting to emanate throughout the hyperscalers, I think. But I think, Google definitely led the way, in my opinion, on the Power First strategy. And then it's going to be interesting to see how that extends now to water as well, because everyone's been talking about power for a while, but water's just starting to get spoken about because it's even more catastrophic, I believe, for water than, they're both catastrophic, let's face it.
But huge difference, aren't they? So it's interesting. So there's this trend, looks like, to moving away from data centers offsetting, their emissions, to actually then taking control of the power generation directly, right? And then essentially securing their own power, clean energy, and actually then generating their own clean energy. So there's this really interesting convergence of data and AI, compute, cloud and energy coming together. And it's becoming a bottleneck, right, I guess, for a lot of these companies that have to scale, huge amounts of data center capability, and they just don't have access to the energy, or they actually don't have access to the right type of energy, the cleaner energy they need.
Yeah.
And I think then from industry, there's a lot of pressure coming from industry, because you have, on the one side, products becoming smarter, everything's becoming more software driven, software driven vehicles, all the different types of products you buy that have more compute power and more connectivity requirements. Then you have obviously continued pressure in terms of ESG, so boards wanting to drive more transparency in the value chain, for the supply chain. And obviously this point around where their cloud consumption comes from is still pretty opaque to them, compared to other sources of their emissions in a typical value chain. So there's a lot of pressure there to be compliant, and since then obviously ESG standards require that transparency to be compliant. So that's being driven partly by legislation, partly by the consumer. And then at the same time, consumption obviously is going up, as we all know, from all of these applications as well. So actually, it's becoming a bigger problem all the time.
Yeah. And all of this is happening at the same time as there's an energy transition in most countries.
Yeah.
Some more advanced than others, some more crazy than others in their thirst for this net zero and stuff like that, in terms of, being realistic. In Australia today, for example, the Liberal Party had a bit of a powwow in Canberra to talk about their net zero policy and whether they want to support it. And I believe it got beat down. You might know, I think it was 23-15. I think they were against it, net zero. So I think not only is this energy problem, let's treat energy, not just renewable energy, because it is renewable energy, because all the big hyperscalers have made commitments around renewable energy. Google 2030, Amazon 2032, I think, 2033, and then Microsoft maybe a touch after that, 2035. So within the next 10 years, all of this is happening at the same time as the coal-fired plants are being shut down in Australia, other parts of the world. And so we need more and more energy for data centers to be constructed and grow the cloud, at the same time as we're turning off power stations that deliver firm baseload power. So for data centers, there's only two real sources of renewable power that will suit data centers. That's geothermal and nuclear. That's because they're firm and they're what we call baseload power. They're clean and they're very reliable. America's embracing both. In the AI action plan, our famous President, Mr. Trump, AI action plan clearly calls out geothermal and nuclear. So that's where they're going. They're putting all their chips in that for the next little while, and that's great. But in Australia, for example, nuclear is a dirty word, and so
It's crazy.
I don't see nuclear being embraced by the constituency or viable in Australia for the next 15 to 20 years at least.
But you would think that would be a natural choice, given the amount of space, the amount of sheer space that Australia has to put things in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I think it has to go that way in the future, and certainly with the growth of the cloud and data centers and all the hyperscalers. If the hyperscalers come to
and
Australia
AI.
and start beating the drum, then something's got to shift. So geothermal has a very promising future in Australia. It is prospective for geothermal, and I think that will form part of the grid, in years to come, a big part of the baseload power. But there's still going to be a gap because in Victoria, for example, sorry, I'm talking a lot about Australia, but because everywhere is different, right? Because what's the problem in Australia is different to Malaysia, who are going to be
it's completely
having a
different in the
massive problem.
UK.
I'll get to that in a minute. But in Australia, we've only got one baseload option essentially that isn't really being embraced, and the first coal-fired power plant in Victoria is being switched off in less than 3 years.
Yeah.
Really?
It's 2028. Your lawn, it's called your lawn facility. There's one got shut
Didn't
down
they
in New
already?
South
Didn't
Wales,
they
which
already
is the
shut down
AGL
one?
facility called
Or didn't they,
Liddell,
Brad?
Liddell.
Okay.
And then Victoria's next with your lawn in 2028. So that takes 1.5 gigawatts out of the network.
But see, I think it's out of necessity, Al. I don't think that any of this is being done for like the purposes of good. I know, Brad, you have a more optimistic opinion about the way that people think than I do, but I just think this is being done out of necessity. The reason that the hyperscalers are adopting renewables is because they have to. They don't have another
Yeah.
choice. If they don't
Yeah, they
adopt
do.
renewables, they're not going to be able to build more data centers.
No,
Right? Because there's no power. And like
Yeah.
in the UK, the UK is an interesting example. The grid is a mess, right? And we know that. What is this? Is anyone else seeing this on their screen? What are you
I'm
doing?
taking a
What are
photo.
you doing? What? I was
Sorry,
like, what are you
sorry I
doing?
interrupted you.
Sorry, everybody. Matt just took a photo of us somehow
But
using
I
his
look
interface.
too,
I don't know.
too serious for my liking.
That's
so, yeah.
correct.
We're
Maybe get a
taking. No, we're
Google-
going to take another one. We're going to take another one because
Get
you're
a
all going to
Google
give it a plug
Pixel
on
and change it
LinkedIn.
over.
Yeah, Google Pixel. It's
Edit
fine.
point. Apologies.
No, what was I? I've completely lost my train of thought now, Matt.
So you're
What
talking
was I
about
saying?
hyperscalers
On
being that
necessity.
necessity.
Yes. It is like in the UK. UK
Necessity,
is an example
yes.
of this, right? There is no power. There's not enough there is none, right? And unfortunately, as you can imagine, I think a lot of our grid runs on wind, doesn't it, Brad? Which is not going to work for data centers.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
it's
not sure
true.
they run out, but probably in the UK, I don't know.
Well-
I would guess more than half of our energy
There's
now
a
is
lot of wind
renewables,
there.
right? Mostly, obviously, wind. Yeah.
Yeah, which is not like, and that comes with the challenge of balancing the grid, right?
Yeah.
Is if you're using wind, you have to constantly be calibrating the grid so it doesn't blow up,
But isn't
at
that
a really, really high
the
level.
problem for data centers is more that the wind is intermittent and it's got a capacity factor of
Yes,
around
yes.
35.
Yes,
And so data centers need power all the time, right? And so if we have
you can't just switch it off.
Yeah.
No,
If you
and,
switch it
and,
off,
and
then
batteries aren't big enough to keep a data center running. It's not like you can just plug your little charger into the data and just say whack out the diddly-o, And, but
Are
this
you
is
saying that by USB charge? Are you saying
They're out. Then do you see a trend of basically the data centers being built where the actual renewables are? So like wind, maybe solar.
not wind. I think where they can source stable baseload power is where they'll be. I think the co-location
a
model will be
few-
adopted. Yeah.
There's a few examples of this,
yes.
right?
And
Yeah.
also
Well,
water,
and I think that's the main. I think because we've seen a number of examples of like the hyperscalers picking sites that have access to renewable energy. But I'm thinking, what are some examples of that? Because there has been a number of them recently.
I think
Um,
Google has some in Nevada and in the desert sort of parts of the world. They've got some. The geothermal project in I think it's Nevada. That's an example.
I've seen some examples in the Nordics where I think data centers are using seawater for cooling or rare. Those
Yeah.
pretty top. So that's just
seawater. Lots of water
I can
in the
see
world.
how there's a sort of double benefit of being maybe close to offshore because of the access to water, but also you kind of you maybe solve some of the cooling issues, and then you potentially have access to renewables as well. So I can see how there's going to be some areas around the world that are going to become hotspots, because they can those benefits altogether.
Well, Look, obviously, I'm showing my clear bias
Charlie.
towards geothermal
Yeah.
because of the industry that I'm in. There is a cooling aspect to data centers with geothermal as well, so you can abate waste heat to the subsurface. It's been done over in your former part of the world, Georgia, in Western Australia. The Syro did a.
Don't tell anyone that. I don't tell people that I'm from
Wait,
Perth.
she's not from Perth. It's
I just
Geelong,
say I'm
Georgia.
from
Our
Melbourne.
listeners know.
I
sorry,
just
yeah.
from Melbourne.
Yeah, but they did it's called you can have a look at it on Google it, Pawsey supercomputer. And so they abated waste heat to the subsurface and put heat from the computer into the aquifer below the surface. And so you can actually, data centers will adopt this in the future. So you can actually send heat under the underground, use the underground aquifers and absorb the heat into the subsurface. And this will save a lot of the current designs are based around evaporative cooling. And they just, there's so much water that's just evaporated. If it is competing with drinking water and those sorts of things, it's catastrophic. I think for a 100 meg data center, I want to say like 4.5 million liters a day is used for evaporative
That's
cooling.
crazy. This is the thing. People don't realize. People don't. When I say to people that data centers use lots of water, they don't think they think I'm not serious. I'm
Okay.
like,
Well, in the I'm pretty confident if you read the
Yeah.
Google sustainability report, last year they disclosed they used 24 billion gallons, I'm pretty sure, gallons. So that's not the smartest bloke going around, 2.5 times in liters, I think. So it's
That's a lot.
70 billion liters, I think, in terms of, and that's on their current data center fleet. Right?
Yeah.
So think about,
yeah,
that's going to go 10 times in the next 5-10 years. So you're talking 700 billion liters of water a year.
This is a big issue.
So by the way, Google
issue for industry because all of these things come in. If I'm, let's say, I don't know, if I'm a car company, I'm making cars, and so my cloud consumption is all in my scope 3 emissions, and it today it maybe feels like a relatively small issue from their perspective because they've got other issues, but as they solve some of those other issues in reducing the carbon impact in their product supply chain and so on, this and at the same time is their compute needs are going up. That this issue is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? They got to have that transparency, and I think also, as I was saying earlier, the consumer probably is becoming savvier over time, and I can see over time they will start to demand more transparency in the products they're buying. Like you say, Al, so like the water consumption, for example. I guess today people probably don't really appreciate or know how much water is consumed in making running the products that they have. I could see potential in the future how that would be something that would create more transparency and then therefore create more draw from the consumers, from the product, from the brands that use these resources. Which probably,
I think we need to do what you said, Brad, to do the quality mark for data centers.
The kite mark, yeah.
The kite mark,
Yes.
yeah.
kite mark.
Yeah.
See? Oh, Al knows what kite mark is. Hang on, before we go on to that, Google's future data centers are going to be built next to solar and wind farms. So that was the news from a year ago.
I wonder how they're doing
which is
that. Like,
interesting.
how
So
are they
power generated
logistically
on
managing
site.
that with because obviously you only get solar during the day, and like
that's-
wind you only get a certain. I wonder how are they like balancing that system?
Oh.
It must be really quite
there's
complicated.
a couple of things. So one will be obviously there will be energy storage to balance out the grid requirements, right? But then also I could see that the data center will become savvier about channeling to balancing their compute power into the times when the energy's greener or lower cost, right? So it could be that could be again from the demand side, you might send jobs to be processed. It could be that then they're automatically stored to the right time when it's greener.
Yeah, that's a really
might,
good point actually, because I believe they can. Brad, you correct if I'm wrong. I think if you have it part of a aligned network of data centers, they can sort of toggle between the data centers as to which one's being used for computing at the time, and so you can almost send one like a ghost ship at times, and so they would probably not have a huge draw on energy at that time, but another one would, where you, as you say, it may be a different time of day and they could have different power loads.
Well, it's the same as when you're signing up for your cloud contract and you go, I need this much compute, and maybe some of that is at off-peak hours, or like it's at hours that are more, so that they might structure as a supplier to cater to more to those needs from a pricing perspective as well.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of already
Yeah.
exists. I mean, like if you haven't
Well, it does. Yeah.
if you have an electric vehicle, you might have a tariff that is cheaper and greener to charge at night. So it's a double benefit. It's not just cheaper, but it's also potentially greener. It depends what tariff you are. So I think it's that idea is already there. I could see how it could be extended into the data centers, but then be passed on to the demand side. So the consumer of the data centers is savvier about how they actually use them, right? And they get that benefit.
Yeah.
Maybe it will result in like more dynamic pricing in terms of cloud utilization. Like, is it's like you say, Brad, it's the same as power, right? If you like, it's the same as managing or like balancing the network. You're balancing the supply of data center resources, right? So at some hours or days, you might have cheaper prices because you have less demand and you want to channel it through that pathway. It might be more efficient because you've got you've got solar or you've got wind or whatever, right? It's a windy day, you get a discount.
No, actually, that's not
Well,
bad.
I mean, it's the
wonder if
same as
that'll happen.
balancing the grid, right? Is that the pricing is completely dynamic because of that, because of the supply conditions. So I guess,
Yeah.
If it's a windy day, your spreadsheets will run faster.
What was that?
If it's a windy day, your spreadsheets will run faster.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I think getting to that point you're making about consumers and getting more savvy, I think the real test, like it's going back to my earlier point, is going to be around just having the social license and the permission to do something. And I think the hyperscaler that gets the balance right between energy, water, location, and not crashing the grid every day, like you said, just smashing it up all the time. I think they will be the hyperscaler that can go and roll out their capital projects as they choose, because I see this term a lot, but capital heavy, permission light. They think a lot of them, and I'm going to throw mud at hyperscalers, but we will for a minute. They think just because they've got big wallets and they can throw money around and make big $15 billion announcements, they can do whatever they want. That is rapidly changing. Indianapolis and Wisconsin, case in point, that you can't just bulldoze your way into a town and say, we're going to build a data center. So people will rise up and stamp their feet. And so permission is everything. Social license is going to be the real currency. And then you'll have the keys to wherever you want to build. That's my gut feel. So that if get it right and you're fine. Sounds simple.
I hope you're right. Al, because I feel like at the moment, I don't think they give a toss. It's like,
no, but
we just do whatever we want.
As you said, it's not a necessity, right? But at least they're making the commitments.
Yeah.
The power they're procuring is all green, through many forms, geothermal, nuclear, wind, solar. They're trying to chunk up the grids as much as they can. But the simple fact is we're in for a decade of pain wherever you're located, the UK, Australia, wherever, because we're playing around with these grids so much in terms of taking stuff out of the grid, trying to get stuff and the demand on the grid. Like, sorry for talking about Victoria again, but I just cannot see how Victoria gets through after 3 years. I don't know how we function after your lawn shuts down at this stage. I don't see the pathway yet. It may become clear. We start chunking up the grid with some extra baseload power. I've got a few ideas on where that could come from.
I mean, taking like an optimistic view, it could be a good thing because they need the energy, right? The energy demand is massive, and if it's just fundamentally cheaper to run off renewables, then that's creating demand in the right direction, I guess, right? It's taking us in the right direction, which probably that's not really what they want to do. That's not their first aim, but it might be the byproduct of
side effect.
Yes.
I like that. So basically we're saying that because the hyperscalers have such a need for power, they will be like a bit of a driving force for the implementation of more renewable sources for like general use.
I think they are a protagonist. I agree. I think because they're zipping it up. You look at all the deals that have been zipped up the last few years, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, everyone, right? They're all these deals in renewable energy, be it nuclear, geothermal, wind and solar. but they are driving the market forward. There's no doubt that they are the projects. But the only problem I see is that they're taking all the capacity that they're creating for data centers.
Yes.
So the net effect on the grid, I'm still worried about, because
It's
if
not positive.
we're still turning off the power stations like your lawn in 2028, that's still a problem. But you're right, they are expanding the market. The market is getting more mature and skilled, and the projects are coming online, and there's huge benefit to their bank balances driving this juggernaut forward. But they are still going to be hoovering up all the power as the pendulum shifts from, data centers taking up 3% of the global power supply at the moment to becoming 90% of the global power supply in the future, right? In terms of demand, I should say, in over 10, 15 years. So that's the only thing that I can see is that the challenge around that is that they are taking all the capacity.
I think some of that is like the fault of, and again, like I'm go back to consumers, is like if you jump on a plane, as you all know, as three of you know, jump on a plane in the UK and you go to Europe, what do you see as you're going over the ocean?
Wind farms, I guess.
Tons and tons and tons and tons of wind farms, right?
Farms.
We're used to it, right? There's wind farms everywhere. It's good, right? We don't get concerned about it. I feel like Australia is very conservative in this way. Like they have a problem with seeing that. It's like we need to move away from that. No, I know they do. I know they do, but there's not enough. And part of that is because of like public pushback, right? Wind should be like the first, because it's the simplest, right? But oh my God,
it's bad
this
for
is
your
ridiculous.
Health,
It's like the wind farms turn you crazy. They're everywhere. Like you have to have them, right? I think people have to realize that you only have so many options, right?
We need all of them.
Yes, exactly. We need all of them. And I think that, there's a lot of public sentiment that is very like stupid, to be frank.
Not to give a TV show review, but have you guys watched the show Landman by chance? No. Paramount. I'll give it a shout at Paramount. But Billy Bob Thornton is the lead in that. I like him. In Texas. It's the oil game, razzle dazzle, very fun. And but he gives an amazing soliloquy, I think you would call it. He just tears to shreds the whole idea about wind farms and net zero, and he sums up what we're talking about right now in about 5 minutes, and it's much better in his voice than mine. So go and watch it. And it's a fantastic lens of how the problem around wind farms, they are going to be carbon free, and also the problem around transmission lines and how many you would need to actually chunk up the grid enough. But
I mean, again, there's no perfect solution, right? It's all difficult. It's all complicated.
It's a combination
like
of
there's
everything,
no,
right?
and again, like what was the one we were talking about before? Nuclear. I don't understand why not. Again, it's like this old school view of like, oh, it's going to blow up and kill everybody.
They are expensive.
But isn't there
it's much
different
better.
ways of building nuclear now where it's...
But I mean, also Australia
has
but it
still
so
takes
much
time,
space.
so it's not going to help us in 3 years.
So much space. Like half of Australia is desert. There's no one there, right? Categorically, there's no one there. I couldn't think of a better place. Well,
except dead
potentially, people. Depending on where you are.
No, yes. You also thinking a little bit about Europe and sort of North Africa, like with Morocco, for example, they have such huge amounts of solar, capability already, and there has been a lot of talk about how they could be generating, for example, hydrogen, like green hydrogen out of the solar that they have in North Africa, piping that back into Europe, and then basically driving a lot of green energy back into Europe from there, and that would completely change the economics of that whole country. And another example is close to home here, off the west coast of Scotland, west coast of Ireland, where there's huge wind resource, and there's a lot of investment going into offshore wind there. And so I can see, again, I mean, that's already happening, nothing to do with data centers, but I can see how if there is some sort of desire to put the data centers closer to where the energy is being generated, then those would be in this part of the world, those would be obvious, places.
And I was just in New Zealand a couple of months ago, and Wellington of all places where there's lots of wind, and I saw so many wind farms. It was insane.
It's really windy in Wellington.
New Zealand's obviously fantastic for geothermal as well, obviously with all the springs and Rotorua, etc. But And Microsoft actually have a
That's true too.
geothermal plant running a data center in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, because Amazon recently threw out their plans to build.
Oh,
Yeah, they
Yeah,
announced
Yeah,
it.
what happened?
oh yes, I was going to mention that because they flattened a wetland and they got rid
Oh
of all
my
the wetlands,
goodness.
and then they decided, I don't know, we're not going to do this anymore. And obviously they went to some other data center provider. So they spent they were going to spend $7 billion or something.
What was the
but
reason?
They canned it because I think the
Oh, it
price
was
of
the
energy
price of
went up.
energy.
I think the price of energy at the time, I think. So they promised it in 2021 and then they opened this year. I think it probably took longer than what they expected. So that was an interesting outcome there. And I'm not sure how.
That doesn't
That
sound
was in
very
Auckland, so I'm not sure
environmentally
how
friendly. They
what
bulldozed
they
the
ended up with.
wetlands and then they were like, oh, can't be bothered anymore.
No,
Yeah.
Christ.
I know. They got a bit of bad press on that,
Yeah.
which is well deserved because. So I think we've
Have
pretty
we
much
covered
out
everything?
of
Did we
time.
cover
Is
everything we
there
wanted to
any?
cover? Oh, we
Forever.
haven't spoken, we should be about FinOps for 5 minutes. Or Green Ops.
Green ops.
Green Ops.
We kind of did a little bit because you talked about the pricing. Maybe the pricing will change. The problem with based on demand and based on environmental factors, maybe that could be part of that. I wonder, FinOps is more of a way of doing things, like it's a way of operating your system. It's not a thing you do
Well,
and
I
then
mean,
walk away.
this
right?
is about measuring
I wanna
impact,
organise-
right? And I think
Right,
Brad was saying
right.
before,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, Brad was saying before, like most organizations have a fairly transparent view of their impact in terms of their environmental impact, other than compute, right? So,
Correct. Yeah.
would you say that's relatively accurate, Brad? Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, it depends by industry and organization, but yeah, if you take the automotive industry, the majority, if you're a car company today and you're still making petrol cars, the majority of your carbon impact is in obviously the downstream usage of the fossil fuel, using the cars. But obviously over time, as more and more, cars are electrified, and there's other issues around batteries and supply chain. But, as they gradually solve those problems, the issue of this problem we're talking about gets relatively magnified, right? Because they can, for example, they'll be able to measure the carbon impact in the steel or the aluminium in the products. That'll be relatively easy, but they'll need to have more transparency on the impact of their cloud consumption, and I guess it's also a competitive advantage for the different hyperscalers, right? For whichever ones will provide the right tools, the right data, the right integration to be able to understand that information, and for the customer to be able to integrate that data back into their kind of ESG reporting. That will, I guess, become a increasing competitive advantage for those hyperscalers. It's basically another feature, right, in their suite.
Well, I mean, like a Graviton as an example, right, Matt? Graviton as an example.
Yes.
Obviously, that's
Yes,
like
Graviton.
I don't know. I feel like, and I'm not sure what the data says on this. I feel like the people that are using Graviton are like utterly concerned with this, and it's not something that most organizations are actually like actively trying to move to Graviton or use Graviton over other instances. That would be my
No.
view. Maybe you have a different view.
They're still trying to spin up VMs on Intel. Like they don't care.
Trying
They
to
just want their shit to work. Oh, excuse my French.
Graviton
They just want their
sounds like
stuff to
something
work.
from the Avengers.
Graviton is basically ARM processors, so it's cheaper,
Greener, yeah.
faster, more efficient. And if you're building new things, everything should be Graviton because
It's
if
just
you're
a
building a new thing,
no-brainer,
you don't
right?
need the old
But
thing.
again, I don't think
So,
most people are thinking about this.
Yeah.
I think the people that are actually doing it is because they're actively thinking about it. They're like concerned with that as an issue.
yeah, but there'll be more
Well, I mean,
of
you
that.
would hope, right?
There'll be
Well,
more of that
I mean, at
as-
least hopefully more on the
And-
supply side, because even at the moment on the supply side is quite limited, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
From Graviton.
Not even
Yeah,
this. No. I don't
no,
mean
not really. I think
necessarily
there's
like the amount of Graviton available. I mean, like the various products that provide the similar benefits in terms of that Graviton does.
Oh,
Like
okay.
there's only like a limited availability in terms of the technology.
Yeah. And all the cloud providers have differing
Yes.
maturity levels around processors as well. But
And I
AWS
think
is the most
obviously
advanced.
there's, and like I've kind of sort of been down this road in that the hyperscalers are not really willing to like provide transparency. And I don't think it's necessarily because they don't care at all, right? I think actually part of it is just the complexity of understanding the environmental impact of your code base, which is always changing, right? Like it would be very difficult to get I think it's very difficult for them to measure something that's constantly moving in the way that and especially given their software development capability is so fast, right? Their software development capability is off the chain. They just can't keep up with the speed of their own development. Is my own like opinion on why this is so like I think they're not necessarily driven to care as much as we would like them to, but also I think it is genuinely a hard problem.
Like a really good, sounds like a
If
really
I
good
can
problem for
insert an AI
AI,
plug.
essentially, to
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. AI could help solve
Sure.
this, but how much energy are you going to use in AI to help
Yeah.
solve the problem? Because convert the apps, but that'll come down. Like the AI energy use will come down because.
But
the
I mean,
models get
will
smaller and
they?
more
This is
focused.
actually something
So
I want to talk
think
about
that'll
before.
happen.
Is like I know I said that a while ago. I was like, I think we're going to be distilling more models. I think things are going to become more efficient. I'm not sure that I still believe that.
Oh, it'll take some time, but I think that's gonna. It's already kind of starting.
Well,
to
I
happen.
mean,
But let's see. A year is a
yeah,
long time
I guess even if we
in the
talk
world
about
of AI.
LLMs, they're becoming smarter in the sense that they're starting to understand whatever the use case that you're applying them to and to like become more efficient around that use case, right? And distill that data in order to make them more efficient. But more generally, I feel like obviously a lot of individuals are using AI. I think a lot of organizations, especially like large organizations that have a legacy, are still on a journey with this. And I think a lot of them adoption is low from an enterprise perspective. That's why I think we're hardly seeing the like, what is the phrase? Seeing the top of the iceberg,
Yeah.
the tip of the iceberg.
The one.
Yeah,
the
I think we're
16th or
only seeing
whatever
the tip of the
above
iceberg
the
when it
water.
comes to like AI model utilization. Like, yes, I think we become more efficient, but I think also enterprises, a lot of enterprises are not doing very much with AI. As they start to adopt, which they're going to have to because otherwise they're going to get left behind, I think we're going to see the impact of that reflected on like environmental impact. But again, further to like in a more long-term conversations like we've just spoken about is the need for actual physical data centers.
It feels like models will become, they'll become more contextual, smarter and more efficient. But that is a relatively small chain in the balance
I
of
think so.
the demand for AI going up in general. It feels like that's a pretty small, can have a small impact compared to.
Yeah, I think so. And especially like individuals, from my perspective, I think the impact that individuals are having in terms of AI utilization is not going to be anywhere near the impact that corporations have when they start using AI to run operations, which they are. We know they are doing that. Like even Matt, in the work that you're doing, you're literally getting enterprises to use AI to run their businesses. Like.
That's right. And I find use cases like there's that once you start lifting the rock, there's like so many different use cases and the maturity level to
huge gap,
that up
right? Huge gap in terms of what's even possible right now as opposed to what's going to be possible in a year, 2 years.
Which is good for consulting people like us.
If there is more edge computing in products, then where is the energy being used for those? Because it's consuming whatever energy is in the content where that product is.
Your house
I mean, it's not, it's more dispersed, right? But even like that's just the compute energy. That's not.
But consider a situation where you have a car it's driving down the road and it's a petrol car, but it's got a lot of compute power in it, right? Where is the energy coming to that compute power and that's being running in the car? It's coming basically from
your home, from the grid.
No, but it's not. It's coming from fossil. In that example,
fuel.
So if you've got a car that's still a petrol car, but it's got compute power in it, which is a lot of cars today, the energy in that moment that compute power is using is coming from the battery of the car, but the battery is being replenished from running the engine in the vehicle. So actually, all of the energy being used in that compute power is actually dirty because it's coming from running fossil fuels.
Petrol will be
Will
gone
it
soon.
though?
But,
I don't think so.
Well, in Australia, wasn't
Yeah.
there a
There's
rule in Australia that after a certain
2035 is the last
2030?
combustion vehicle in Victoria anyway, yeah.
year, 2035. There you go. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But we don't even have cars that can go
Yes.
far enough in Australia.
Yeah, with that one.
Sorry, I missed that.
Like
Georgia. You
we
disappeared.
don't even electric vehicles can't even go far enough to.
No, there's not enough charging
Oh
infrastructure
no,
and all that.
they're coming.
But they're saying
Not
that will be
yet,
solved.
but they will be.
Who's
I
saying
mean,
that
they'll
will be
come.
solved?
It has to.
Was-
It
was Dan Andrews.
Says who?
That
It'll
was
have
his
to be,
announcement.
right? That's
You know, that was
Says who? Says who that?
That's not
Yeah, I mean he's gone.
that's not really a valid argument.
I don't know.
The first of all, batteries are getting, more powerful, right? The energy batteries is going up a lot.
More efficient.
Um, So today you could probably imagine that on average electric vehicles, I would say it changes, but on average you probably get about half of the mileage that you would get from the equivalent of a petrol or diesel car, right? Obviously that's improving all the time. And some of the newer products that are coming out now are already, much, much higher in terms of mileage. So eventually the batteries will have enough energy storage in the vehicle to basically be the same as, it will just be like a petrol or diesel car in terms of range, right? And the cost will come down and make it more affordable. But at the same time, as the infrastructure improves as well, the charging infrastructure, not just the availability, but the speed of charging, then it will just become like a non-event. You won't talk about it.
Yeah. I agree.
Exactly.
And market
Yeah.
forces will make it happen.
10
It's
years,
10 years.
Yeah.
10
We'll be
years
at
is a
the-
long time.
Which
for this
Nokia
set.
will we be at by then? 3210, what came up? We won't be at a BlackBerry by then.
60, I don't know. I
Re
can't
BlackBerry,
remember.
yeah.
That's
I
right.
remember when that was like the
Um,
in thing.
like
Everybody
cool.
wanted. Is it BBM?
Oh,
Is it
so-
BBM?
Yeah. That was the messaging, was it? Was
Yeah.
the BlackBerry
The
messaging?
what's
BlackBerry
BBM?
messaging.
Is that the
Yeah.
name of the
Yeah.
device?
Oh, yeah. Well, I had a BlackBerry. That was so cool.
BBM, jeez.
It was so cool. If you
Can you
do say
imagine
so
when you saw
yourself.
everyone
If you
see
didn't have a
typing on
BlackBerry,
it,
you were
right?
nothing.
I've never owned a BlackBerry, so I am nothing. Thank you all for your time.
Yes,
I'll wrap
go.
up. Is that okay, Georgia? I think we had a good discussion about data centers and sustainability and everything in between. And listeners, thank you for listening, and please send us feedback. We always like your
Ideas.
feedback at cloud-dialogues.com, and ideas and guests that we can have. So we're going to do more episodes with guests, probably a little bit less frequent, but we'll try and choose some. We've got some interesting topic ideas
Robots.
coming up.
Right.
So robot, yeah,
I
we've
think
got
we
to
can
find
do
some
that.
people to talk
I think we
about
can
some of
find
these
them.
interesting concepts. We need to talk about what do you call
Biped
them?
robots. Is
What
that not? That's a
robots?
word. I'm sure that's a word. I'm not making stuff up.
Yeah, it is a word, but I didn't know it.
Human
I
robot.
learned that today. So,
Yeah.
I like to
I
think
don't
I'm
want to
pretty
think of them
smart,
as
but I didn't
humans,
know that
Brad. They're
one.
not
So,
humans.
Yeah, they're not humans. They're not humans. Well, some people think they are. Okay, thank you all.
Bye.
Until next time.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate Al and
Thank you
Brad's
for
time.
having us.
Goodbye.
Wow.